5 episodes of The Bad Batch have already been released, which is a great number for a ranking. So I decided to rank the first 5 episodes of The Bad Batch from worst to best. And don't get me wrong here, every episode is great, I completely love this show, I think it doesn't subvert our expectations, and I have to say that they made a pretty good job so far. Starting off with number 5, we have episode 3, Replacements. I feel this was more meant to be like a filler episode. In here the Bad Batch has to find a new power source for the shuttle, and Crosshair leads a new conscription soldier squad to strike against Zygerrian's rebels. Within this episode the show gets a lot darker tone, which is not only the story but also visually. Like, you can't see half of the picture sometimes. Really, it was completely black. It shows us that Omega is indeed a capable and attentive clone, and it pushes the replacement process from the clones to enlisted soldier a little more forward. So I'm not going to say it's 100% filler episode, there's still story in it, it's still interesting to watch, it's not bad. It's just a solid episode, but overall it doesn't push the story too much. Continuing with the next spot 4, we have Rampage. This one is the newest episode, episode 5. Here the Bad Batch want to find out who hired the bounty hunter who chased them in episode 4. We are coming to this episode later on in this video. And they need to do a mission to get this information. It's a bounty mission, it's a mercenary mission. They have to bring back a Rancor from Zygerrian slave masters who are already known from the Clone Wars. It's a pretty exciting job, which also doesn't go as it was planned, so it's a very thrilling episode. The reference here is also that the Rancor in this episode will also be seen later in the saga as he fights Luke in Jabbas Palace. In this episode, Omega becomes even more awesome character, and I'm excited for her future potential. There's also a hint that the Bad Batch will take on more mercenary jobs for this underground contractor from Old Mantell.
For nothing.
I found Sid.
So this episode is very solid to set up the new bounty hunter scenario, but it feels more like a side quest. Not to say that this is a bad thing.
Services has declined. Thanks.
At number 3, we had the episode that started it all. The first episode, Aftermath.
Across the galaxy.
What can I say? It starts during the Clone Wars, and we also get to see Order 66, so you can say it's the aftermath of the war. It is a very long episode. We also get to meet many known characters like Zygerrian. We get a closer point of view of the Kaminoans who struggle to find their new role in this new empire. You can say this episode is the introduction to the story of the show. It sets up the whole events, and it's also a transition from the Clone Wars to the Dark Imperial Ages. It also gives us very nice insights to the ex-Republic army and also how the rest of the galaxy reacts to the reorganization of the Republic into the Empire. Overall, it's a solid pilot episode to kick it off, but it feels like I have already seen every scene of the episode in the trailers.
What else you got? Give me more!
On the runner-up spot, we have episode 4, Cornered. On the search for supplies and repair, the Bad Batch visits the moon of Pantora. Here, Omega is hunted by Fennec Shand, a bounty hunter which we know already from The Mandalorian, and the whole episode is a showdown in and under the city. We get to see the streets life of Pantora, we also get to see the underground at the canals, and it all ends up in a great speeder chase. So we get to see much of the world we know from the Clone Wars, and this episode really lets us dive into this formerly not that well known world. It's a very epic and thrilling episode, it's very well made in this way. It feels perfectly like a bounty hunter story in Star Wars should feel. It also leaves open questions like who Fennec Shand works for, which is also a central theme in the following episode Rampage, with which we had already dealt with. Oh yeah, and Echo was sold in droid slavery, so that was pretty cool too.
Echo, go to your new owner.
Yes, whatever you require.
This one episode was very close to the first spot. It's probably the most action-loaded episode, but I think the next one lets us dive even more into the changing galaxy, which is episode 2, Cut and Run. In this episode, the Bad Batch is hunted by the Empire and they need to orientate in this new situation. The only choice they see is to visit an old friend, Cut Lawquane, who is already known from the Clone Wars, to help him to leave the Imperial occupied planet of Seleucami. This episode shows us how the Empire already starts to control and bring order to the galaxy, and how the Bad Batch tries to get by and find a new purpose and answers to their new situation. Also with Seleucami, they brought back a known planet from the Clone Wars and extended it to beautiful environment you want to dive in. Well, most of the time. I think it's a very grounded episode, which is thrilling because we slowly get answers and a clue of how fast the Empire takes control of the society. Also, the Lawquane family is done pretty well, likable and relatable here. It's an episode that feels like an adventure of fugitives and it does that pretty well. So for me, that was the point to put it even higher than episode 4 Cornered. I'm already excited which episode is going to come out next and what we are going to see there. Let me know in the comments which episodes you like the most and I hope I see you next week.
I wasn't snaking. I was unlocking.